Step into a world of romance and mystery with Tamora Rose. Today we're talking about one of the oldest pieces of writing advice out there, and one of my least favorites. That little phrase, write what you know. If you've ever been told that, stick around, because I'm going to turn that rule on its head. Last week technically, I was giving a lecture at the local university, and the discussion turned to how writers choose what they're going to write. Should you go for fiction or nonfiction, romance or mystery? And as always happens in these conversations, someone raised their hand and said, well, writers should only write what they know. And that's where I felt my blood pressure spike just a smidge. Because honestly, I hate that phrase. It's outdated and restrictive, and it can make new writers afraid to dream beyond what they already understand. Why on earth should we limit ourselves to the things we currently know, when the world is overflowing with experiences waiting to be discovered? So here's the truth. You can learn almost anything. You can research, you can experience, you can grow. If I had only written what I knew when I first started, I'd never have written about castles or candlelight or the kind of love that transcends lifetimes. I'd still be sitting at my desk, staring at the same small slice of the world I was born into. When we tell writers to write what you know, we're handing them a locked box and telling them to stay inside it. But stories, the very best stories, don't come from boxes. They come from curiosity and from fascinations, from desire. So I changed that advice immediately as soon as someone said it. I told the class, let's flip it. Write what you're interested in. And I'm just a guest lecturer, by the way. I'm not a full-time professor. I wouldn't do that. I was just brought in to talk about writing romance. And we talked about how to pick what you're going to write. And I firmly believe that writing what you're interested in will do much, much more for you than writing what you know. Because interest fuels passion, and passion drives words onto that page. Now, maybe you want to write a nonfiction book, and maybe it's about learning to ride horses, but you've never even touched one. That doesn't disqualify you. That doesn't mean you can't. It just means you have an adventure ahead of you. You're going to go take some lessons. You're going to smell the hay and feel the strength under the saddle, and you're going to write about it. As you learn, you now know something worth sharing. That's when you start writing authentically. Not because you were born knowing it, because you cared enough to learn about it. You were interested enough in that to sit down and dedicate some time to learning about it. And yes, eventually that means you do end up writing what you know. But it's not the kind of knowledge you start with. It's the kind of knowledge you earn. For writers, especially romance writers like me, that's where the real magic happens. You might not have lived through a forbidden love in 18th century France, for example. You might not have danced with a ghost in a candlelit ballroom. But if you're interested enough to imagine it vividly, and to research the parts that you don't really know yet, well, if you feel it fully and you experience it the best way you can, then your readers will believe it. Because what readers connect to isn't the literal truth, it's the emotional truth. It's your willingness to fall in love with what you're creating, your willingness and ability to impart the knowledge you've gained. So the next time someone tells you to write what you know and stick to that, smile politely and remember this. Write what fascinates you, what calls to your spirit, what keeps you awake at night thinking, what if? Because that's the stuff that matters. That's the stuff that's going to stick with your readers, not just because you knew it, because you were engaged in it enough to learn more. And when we're engaged, that comes across in our writing each and every time. That's where the stories worth writing actually come from, is that engagement. Now that is it for today. Tell me in the comments, what are you most fascinated by right now? What world, what era, what emotion do you find yourself drawn to explore? Until we meet again, may your days be filled with passion and just a touch of magic.